Good afternoon. I would like to call Anna Marie Kakagamic and Pearl Mamakwal from the Scandia Room 1 here to present their report. Where is Anna Maria? And Pearl. If you could join us up here to make your report. And then we'll have James Morris and Carla Duncan. If I can have Anna Maria here, please.
Mas nakas juga. Wasan doon sa pasto. Kwa siya managa ka na, kami na may masit sa maganin sa nani boyang ba panaminawabang. We had two questions to focus on and collaborate on and share our perspectives in those areas. Ako nastami hiwa imagagan mo jikatek number hiwa peshikahi nigas na kuban hiwa mo jikaon ima the types of services, the other types of services that could be accommodated in the communities. Gender affirming healthcare those kind of services. They have to travel out of the community to Toronto to get that kind of services and for that area. Kami nagaya ahagi kutopan pesik ahagay hakutich watig yuat nagonchich and gotanesek awya what the nursing station gaijat apananoab magotihan mashkyukwen apanagweskam debanako nanda tal no eminaganuch nanda gemox so eminaganuch yun so there needs to be specialized services and ways the prescription is delivered. So we're not getting Tylenol every time we go there. So we need a quality service that accommodates our health and also in our conditions as well. In terms of cancer, cancer is prominent in our communities. Awepaka kana jaka zikama kuchimba nikate ashapan emizash kamakaniki akusune gutin hiwes ekashikisek hiwe. So there needs to be a timely diagnosis of cancer and cancer education, what it is. So that needs to be in place and kind of like develop an educational platform in that sense, and so that we all know what the stages are and what kind of services we can acquire. Cancer screening care. Another one is a dental care. This one that I liked is dental air delivery services. Naskar ripet maskunwan himabugotse naskar kanu chima gaja tashikets tripe jamaica hagano chune even which you own. Another one is There's a prominence in arthritis in our communities, so we need to be mindful in that sense as we begin developing services and accommodations and way we can help our members. Another one is chiropractor, massage therapist, and another important piece that is a cross-cultural training. During the month in Asia and Shun, is Mamad Nantang, is Pakistan Machuna with you and Kapminaganachuna. Ecominaga Minan Equin the man and then one. We got more than our cultural compassionate care in a non-go to how the Mashkuna, the Mashkuna guy be Chima downing a going to Mama's you should Janaka Chaja and got in the Abaco Hypoconis cards to which are going to our Governor Jacko Zigamagud. And also the quality health services, and also our practitioners and levels of services. Continuity of care. Trauma-informed care. Access to deliver different services in the community and around. So I say Gunjan Mojagate, I and Snabe Mashkun, Iwe get Jigan Mojagate Ponchiki, Jiki Piki Nasakatek Banhua, which you own, a traditional practice of land and rejuvenation kind of thing here. Aoyogan Motanapan here. There was a story that was shared within our group that when he goes out to the land, when he comes back to the community, he feels rejuvenated. In contrast, when he comes from the city or in an urban center, he feels tired. So that's a brief example of that story that was shared to us. And also medicine people. We always had medicine people as well. And then immediate access to doctors in person. Kaya eka Panama wikata jisen eka na jakong siga magwich. Eka chronic core services, chronic care services ninange, eka acute care services and traditional medicine. Minen one bangekun jintaman, eka minake master tingojikitua pediatric care, nagawash account Bema Nagachinto in Nogewinoa Hima Taxo in Wichoning, Egaminike allied health, Egoge primary health, Egaminike midwifery, in one Tukandula, Egunjan Motaman Hago Tutsimiak, Mieshkatek Tutsim. Iwe Jiki Mama Jagatek when here, Wicho and Jiki and Wajagatek when here. Egaminike FASD, Egmin autism. I got screening services. Dokainan non Ganogay no Jiki Ega when he can dog when Igonagawashak. Mia Kanoga John Jakitian, may Nipetekitian and one Kaiki Winchaka taken, so that then concludes the list that we have. Miigwech.
From group number 2, Odin Room, James Morris and Carla Duncan.
So, I'm going to try and organize my paperwork here. So they call themselves Team Sunshine. So me and Donnie Morris belong to Team Sunshine. The top 3 hospital type services that could possibly be done in the north, one of them immediately talked about palliative care. 3 people automatically said that. And for those of us who come from I come from the 50s, and I remember we did our own palliative care for certain things. When elders died from old age, the people looked after the caregiver, whether it was the wife or the husband. Everybody pitched in and make sure that the caregiver was looked after until their husband or their wife passed away. When they started shipping people out, when they passed away outside, they never came home. People were just told, your wife or husband died. I didn't learn where my paternal grandmother was buried until 2 years ago. And I found her graveyard in Sulakot, at the cemetery there. Pharmacy. I think we can all have our own pharmacies up north in our communities. Mental illness, mental wellness. 7 people in the group automatically said that those are things that we could do in the communities. And I guess that would also include a detox, helping people to detox in the community. The other one is dialysis. Dialysis done in the communities. For those of you that probably know, Garden Hill have their own dialysis machine. There are hospitals that we call hybrid hospitals, half and half. In Fort Albany and Attawabascat, there's the federal nursing station, and then beside it, there are 12 hospital beds run by the provincial government. That was a special situation that came out of Moosonee. It was intended for Moosonee, but there was already a hospital in Moose Factory. So instead of building another hospital across the river, they put one wing in Fort Albany and one wing in Attawabascat. So that's at the hybrid hospital. In Garden Hill, it's kind of like a hybrid situation too, where there's a dialysis center beside the federal nursing station. I think the dialysis unit has 6 beds. And dental care, that's a whole area that we can do up north. Needs to be improved. And then the other one that I briefly talked about is respite for caregivers that work in our communities. And also traditional medicine. It's something that's being done now, but needs to be improved on. And lab services. Those are all things that can be done up north, lab services. And also cancer care, looking after people. And long-term care. 2 people brought out the need to do long-term care in our communities. And also optometry care. That's something that can be done in our communities. Telemedicine should be a part of any facility that we have up north. And also preventative care. Now, there's all kinds of diagnostic imaging, diagnostic services that can be done up north. If we wanted to, the only reason why they're not is because we haven't done it. We haven't pushed for them. We haven't fought for them. But it can be done. And the other one is the same one that Anna Marie mentioned, pediatric care and prenatal care, and also detox. Detox can be done up north. The other hospital type services in the community or another First Nation, laboratory services. That would include X-ray, CT, and ultrasound. The other types of diagnostic services that can be done are diagnostic imaging, blood work, swabs for strep, and so on. Follow-ups and checkups, addiction services, aftercare, treatment centers, and fracture clinics. Putting casts on legs, arms, whatever, can be done up north. And I think that with the growth of services in our communities, I think communities need to start learning about quality assurance and quality control. That what's being built for you is exactly what was ordered. Right now, we don't do that, and we get ripped off a lot by professionals who know what they're doing, who realize that we won't know when they ripped us off. I was telling the people in my group about what happened once when the government was a contractor was building a sewage system in Big Trout Lake. And it had an inspector was watching. He was the watchdog to make sure that the construction was being done properly. And at one point they were digging a hole in the ground that was about this deep and about as round as this. Anyway, they had all the framing around the side and kind of like a floor. Anyway, he came along and he measured the thing. And he said, "Sorry, this is all wrong." And he told them to rip it up again and rebuild it properly. That's quality control. Okay? You need somebody who's a professional watching the things that are being constructed for you, whether it's housing, buildings, water treatment plants, any kind of a facility, to make sure that it's done according to the what's the word they use? Done according to standards. Okay? We don't do that enough. And then we wonder why we get ripped off. Ambulances, paramedics, first responders, those all can all be done in northern hospitals. And also, as I mentioned already, prenatal, postnatal, and parenting, birth centers, midwifery care. Also, we need cultural awareness and cultural competence for people that come and work in a northern facility. Make sure we do that, make sure that we have culturally safe care and cultural sensitivity. Is that it? Okay, you got it.
Thank you, James Morris, for that report. We'll go to the Icelandic room, and Stan Wesley and Christine Savanas.
I want to introduce my Gimooch over here, Christine, who's joining me. Give it up for Christine, everybody, come on. She's been amazing. She's going to go through the list of services in our priorities in our group. But the first thing we did in our group is we asked people, what do you think about services? What do you think about bringing services home? Bringing services closer? So we had a discussion. And I'm not going to go through everything because some stuff was said, but I'm going to say a few things. One of the first things that was said is we need to train our people and start getting our people ready now to fill those roles for when services come closer to home. Because we want to do things right, it has to be run by our people from the ground all the way to the top. Say if you agree. Leave if you don't agree. Okay, that's good. And another comment that was said, and we had a really good discussion on this one, was we always seem to be in reaction mode when it comes down to the health of our people. Meaning people, when it comes down to health centers and hospitals, only go to those health centers and hospitals when they're sick. So we seem to be always reacting on health as opposed to preventing health. So we need to begin to set up systems where people are entering these buildings for wellness, for preventing wellness, maintaining wellness, and not just going there to get better when they're sick. We talked about not waiting for a generation to make things happen. And when we talk about the concept of 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, that's a generation of elders that will enter the spirit world by then. And that's too long. So we need to begin to think about what we can do now or in the short term to make sure that the health improves in the meantime, before we start getting into the 10, 15, 20 years of making some big dramatic change. But we can start making change now. Here's some of the stuff that was said. One of the things that was said was in regards to advocacy, we need to have improved advocacy for our people that are in the hospital right away. We heard stories, very passionate stories, of people falling off the beds and laying on the floor crying for help for 15 minutes, for half an hour, and not getting the help that they need. So we need to have increased advocacy for our people to feel safe, our elders to feel safe in the hospital, because our elders are hungry in the hospitals. They're not being able to feed themselves. Our elders are being ignored in the hospitals. We need increased advocacy for our people in the hospitals. And we talked about Anishinaabe language. What do these terms mean that's on your list in Anishinaabe? We don't have terms for them yet, so people don't know what they mean. So they don't know what they require because there's no words in the language to explain what that means. And over on top of everything that was on that list that was provided, our ways have to be on the top of every list. The holistic ways, our traditional ways, have to be on top of that list. Just have to be. We talked about the fact that we were healthy before. We lived to be over 100 years old on average before. So whatever happened before contact was working before. So we need to go back to those systems and the beauty and the wonder of our traditional ways, because it has worked before. Since time immemorial, it has worked before. So we need to go back to that. And in the healthcare system, our people need to be given the choice on which type of wellness and services that they want, whether it's a Western or whether it's traditional or whether it's a combination of both. We also spoke about the approval process, the frustration of the NIHB approval process in our communities, because even to get a pill of Tylenol, it has to be approved by the government. And that is absolutely unacceptable, and that needs to be fixed. Gimuch Red Group, amazing. So I'm going to call upon my Gimuch, Christine, to talk about the list. I'm a big monster, so I'm going to do that.
Kanagunin Gimuch. So the type of services that the Red Team picked was lab services in the communities, diagnostic imaging, and dialysis service were the main three that they picked. And what they added was a community infrastructure, good water system, internet, and housing and hydro. and medical equipment in the community. And the hospital type services that they picked was elder care, and Stan touched up on why we needed more elder advocacy, diabetes care, and cancer care, and rehab services. And the other thing that we talked about was holistic healing, or Anishinaabe way midwifery. And we also added gynecology, sorry. And yeah, so that's the services that we picked in our group.
Woo-hoo!
Thank you.
Good job, girl, up top. Let's go. Right there.
Thank you very much, Stan, Wesley, and Christine Swanes. Now we'll hear from Viking Room A. That's the blue group, and that is with Lynn Marie, Manitowabi, and no Kimochi, eh? No Kimochi. Okay.
Just sister. The thing is, when we do these breakout groups, there's a lot of rich discussion, rich storytelling. So again, I have to thank all the members of the blue team. I have to thank you for your voice. I have to thank you for your sharing part of your spirit of who you are. I also have to thank our recorder. I just recall she's a researcher, and she has this really wonderful way of combining all the different themes. So we didn't pick top 3 hospital services, but we handed out some papers, and we asked them to list their top 3. And out of all those around the circle, there was 15 or so of them. There were 5 top hospital services that they want to see in the community. So when it comes to diabetes, it is a chronic illness in our community. So they would like to see dialysis, foot care center, and a holistic sort of dietitian and diabetes care. It's really important too that we take care of our future and make sure that development is healthy. So we have pediatrics, a pediatric hospital. Services for special needs in the communities, autism supports and behavioral problem supports. Palliative care was also listed in the top 5, and mental health services. And then the second question answered was, what other services would you, oops, I did it again. I don't know how to operate 2 fingers. Did you get it? Oh dear. Okay, I don't know where the cursor is. Okay.
You can't mouse it.
I can't mouse it. Okay, go back up. Go back up. All right. Okay. Other stay here. Okay. You dietitians, traditional medicines, and it's a theme that was talked about with the other groups. Is that we had whole health care prior to contact, prior to settlers, and what do you call? There's teachings out there is that everything that creation provides for us is here with us now. For every single illness and disease, it's already here. Ultrasound and X-rays, because accidents happen, things grow, so you got to see underneath. Lab services can be done in the communities. Physio was really important for, and physio including for children. Prenatal care, home birthing and maternity. There were some stories shared about birthing in the communities, and it's really humorous how babies just appear. It's really cool. Women's health clinic. It's really important to understand both men and women's health. Long-term care, respiratory, oxygen support services for pneumonia and respiratory distress. There's some communities in the Nan Territory that have, what's that called, blasto? That went around in the community. So accidents happen, right? Things happen in nature, and that's one of them. It's really important that all our communities have consistent dental services. Technical services associated with all those, emergency services, I'm going to go back to that, cardiac services, medical escorts, and the going along with people helping people is that we need to ensure that our people are educated by our own people for our people. And just like what Stan had mentioned in their group, is that it's really important that we start them when they're really young. I heard a story one time where when a child had their walking out ceremonies, the elders or the aunties and the uncles, they knew what that child would be, and they guided that child to be that as they got older. We've lost those ways, so that's something that can continue to happen. So educational services, student support services, so having those things in the community. And it reminds me of when in education, because my background is education, late 60s, Indian Control of Indian Education was a document that was produced, and it took a number of years. That was like over 40 years ago. And today we have Aboriginal institutions. We have Ushki-Winjik, we have 7 Generations, we have First Nations Technical Institute, Grand River Polytech, Anishinaabeg Educational Institute, and I feel like I'm missing one more. I'm looking at the map of Ontario. So it takes time. It takes time, and we have all the visioning and the resources happening so that our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren will live in whole health. Do you have anything to add there, Miss Emma?
Or medical schools for natural and traditional medicines. There's in Manitoba, there's a lady that teaches traditional medicines. She does that every summer. She takes the people in the bush for 2 weeks, I think, and she teaches what each medicine is for. And this is what they were talking about, to teach the young people about the medicines. Kundoa kuangaunt negategi in mashkikin. Ego ge what else did we talk about? I'm having too much fun with Lynn and the stuff that she says that she was saying using the laptop. She said, I can't mouse it here. And it sounded so funny when she said it. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. And for education, we need to teach the people about financial services, how to handle the financial support services, miga ikituachi ag ma and the reach in the if they go for training, doctors training, then do training and stuff like that. And the reach in the because some of the communities I don't think they get the funding to go to take doctor training or something like that, because when I was going to school at the university I didn't really get help for my funding. Like I had to pay for my own education when I went to school. We are just saying on into some of the communities, because the other thing was I was not the first priority to be funded because I live out of town. That was the other reason. How do I?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Oops.
Get it all?
Sure. And the other thing we talked about was what we did in our group was we hand out the papers. We asked everybody to write down what their thoughts are, and image an elder when we respected the elders that way, let them talk however long they wanted to talk. So one of us went around the group, the circle, to get these papers or talk to the ones that are sitting around the circle. That's how we did our circle, because we didn't want to miss what the elder had to share. We didn't want to miss anything what they had to say. And
We were multitasking.
yeah, we were multitasking when we were in that. We're doing a circle. Misha? Good.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to Scandia Room, the green guys. And Charles Mikas and Susan Chapman.
Thank you, Wally. Good afternoon. I'm pretty sure everybody's getting tired, so I will make this brief. As I was walking by, I asked Donnie if I could be a Morris instead of a Mikas. He just laughed at me. So. As an exercise, I want to ask you guys a translation. Can anybody translate? Okay, there's two challenges. One is, can anybody translate hippopotamus in to Ojibwe or Ojibwe? Okay. Oh, somebody there. He's got a mic.
Hello? Yeah. When we get an indicted, Kamako Kutech, we've got to get Java. Big nose.
That's a good one. Somebody else over here?
Is that hippopotamus?
Hello? Oh, I'll tell you what I told my student when he asked me that. He asked me 3 times, and I told him, just straight from my head, your mother.
Your mother. To the student. That's what Hammond's response was. So, my sister is a native language instructor, and we posed that challenge we have a Mikas chat. James, do you have a translation for hippopotamus?
I don't know if they were serious, but I heard one people just saying that statum.
Okay. That's a good one. Did you guys remember all three? So the one we asked my sister, she's a native language instructor at the high school, and she's not much older than me, maybe by 7 years. And the one she gave, she said, okay, I thought maybe you guys would enjoy the laugh. Mi question dinag kag wita maga nungum kap tagizik. Mawaj ekagwe kchine damaj jmamad ne damaj yuanun kegunan kagwe jmindo. And so I'm just going to briefly so we changed the format of asking them. We didn't say what were the top three, but thinking outside of the box in terms of health service innovation is kind of what we talked about. And the one main one that kind of stood out was to create policies that work for communities, right? Because as Mr. Wesley mentioned, there seems to be a lot of red tape just to get, Tylenol or any sort of prescription, and that takes a long time. And also policies that protect not just the practitioners, but communities and community members. Okay, and there was a big focus on. Again, there's a bit of confusion as to communities being engaged by multiple organizations, and so the question was, why don't these organizations work together and share that data, right? The information that is collected with each other. That way, people don't feel like they're being asked similar questions at, maybe 3 times a year. The other one was case management. Okay, I didn't write the notes down, but they look like shorthand, and there's acronyms in there, so I'm going to try my best to decipher them. Appointments, meds, and follow-up. And this was in regards to physicians coming in, seeing a patient, and their next 2 appointments are 2 different other doctors that they have to tell their story again in terms of their condition and how it's affecting them, and how they used to be prior to that condition. Once health services are transferred, it's assumed you are on your own. So there needs to be a fair bit of support there. And the other really big one that we talked about was palliative care. And okay, I don't know what IPP, what is the acronym for IPP? Okay, yes, which leads to, right, midwifery, because I've heard elders in some of the communities say, they used to deliver children, and again, going back to Stan Wesley's point about living 100 years in the past, a lot of people were able to do that with natural plants, resources, and things like that. The other one was peritoneal dialysis. I guess the other term is home dialysis. And the question was, when people are sent home and they can use, and they're trained, right? The one person is, but when they're at home, they don't last very long. They last maybe 2 years, maybe less. And the other one was the hemodialysis, having it in community. And a traditional medicine teaching space in the clinic, and education and support for more of those types of services. And the challenges are asking for something from different parties. Accountability for improper care, right? And I was just chatting with Donnie Morris about when translation services are needed, when a doctor calls and somebody's translating. Some things get missed and some things get lost in translation, and then improper services are you know, the result, and there's no real accountability for that. According to some of the group members, they shared some of the stories, right? And this goes back to my example of translation for hippopotamus. System that supports follow-up care, avoid silos and duplication of care. Hiring process in community, where you hire somebody who's educated, but you mentor them to become either a PSW and work their way up into becoming an RN, right? And that's quite possible, because when you support a young educated person in the community and you give them confidence, they will keep going with their education because they're serving their own people. And the last, I'm just going to use point form for these. Family care centers, holistic, traditional, and professional services. Mental health being one of them. Youth centers, mental health, supportive care for parents and youth, and also provide the professional specialty services. Elder care support center. That one is pretty self-explanatory. And also, again, primary care. One was very passionate about that, and that's physiotherapy and occupational therapy. And again, prevention, which in the Ontario Ministry of Health, they call it public health, right? Preventative measures, teaching, awareness. And I think this one was a really good idea, to have cultural awareness camps in the community, so that you don't have to send people out to a town urban center, right? And this is another important one, which is space for chaplain services. Some of these hospitals do not have an Indigenous chaplain to talk to, you know, the patients, whether it's their last, you know, time, as they're going to be palliative. Spiritual health needs. Oh, this one was a good one. Walking trails. And this was a conversation about diabetes. promoting physical health, and a walking club, right? Doesn't have to be very high impact exercise. And they said we need 33 doctors, one in each community. We'll get that done. Less telephone consults where clients not involved. Okay. I think that's it. Okay, miigwech.
Thank you very much. That provides us with the 5 reports from the 5 groups. We started this session honoring the community voices. How hippopotamus got in there, I can't figure out yet. But anyway, it's interesting to have a little laughter along the way. One of the people that reported mentioned about the training of our traditional medicine people. And you always have to bear in mind as we're moving forward that we're changing the system. Yeah? One of the things is that we need to bring our traditional healers up to be able to do the gifts that they were given. I recall a story in northern Manitoba in one of the reserves, and I know the family, I know the lady and the man who went to a springtime trapping, and they had to they had to wait for a float plane to pick them up in a further remote in the trap line. 2 weeks before the ice was opened, the man had an accident. With an axe, he chopped his foot, a terrible cut, and broke one bone there, and a severe cut. And they had to wait 2 weeks before the plane could come and pick them up, because in those days you didn't have no communication. Before you left instructions when you want the plane to come and pick you up. So when they got picked up, they rushed the man to the nursing station. It happens that the doctor was there. And they took that man to the nursing station, and the doctor was there, and he undid the wrapping that the wife had done on her husband. And when the doctor unwrapped the bandages, he looked at it and just sat there looking at it and examined the foot and took an x-ray of the foot. And they stayed there, and finally the doctor came back to him with the x-ray, and he put a little bandage over it and said, okay. And before they left, the doctor asked the wife, how did you do it, and what did you use? And the wife asked him through an interpreter, why? Is something wrong? No, the doctor said, no. Even if I had stitched it with medical things and put ointment on things like that, whatever you did to your husband, I could never match it. The doctor asked him, what did you do? What did you use? Being a wife and very humble, she just lowered her head and she Googled a bit and says, Conan. And she was asked after, why didn't you answer the doctor what you did, because you did such a good job on it? And she said, if I told him, he said, the Medoa Gable. He said, if I told him how I did it, he would tease about it. He would make fun of it. And I didn't want to. You see, our people have gifts in medicines. And those are some of the things that we, as part of health transformation, that we change. We bring those up. There is nothing wrong with our people going and taking these medicines and practicing them. That's the gift that our people are being given. And I want to encourage people to begin doing that, to begin sharing stories with your children and grandchildren. That's part of our health. We have done a lot of work today, and tomorrow morning we're going to start at 9 on the final day. And tomorrow morning when I do the recap, and James is going to make the first presentation, I hope to have the recap circulated so that you have copies of it. I hope people have copies of it. Natalie, those were circulated, the recaps. Oh, what? Okay, so you'll get recaps tomorrow on it, so you'll have copies of it, okay? I know that people were madly scribbling away as I was presenting the recap and the summary, okay? And with that, we're going to call it for the day. Emily, can I ask you to say a closing prayer for today? Yeah.
Kinontavish. Well, nittamagekitwa, boso kakinagitannawa. No como kaina pian. Punje o shibihamawishet kawita no kimak nijikichikwe, where they in school. Kidot Gobandamagmasuiniko, Emasnahigatek, Auyegi Mikoganut, Skibmatis. Weskatsaku Shabanuete, Magaji Anokian, Ahawetuskatis, Kagi Mikoganut. Chikikenda make Matawa Tribal Council, 100 the Bendagose. Kauningiken Masina and in the Soki Negobane. Ken Manas Srinigo. About 2 or 3 years ago. School with Gajan of Kangaban. Ye, as Mammet named the man who got a Kaina Pian. Monsak, me and as Yashuazan. As an elder, I always have to prepare what I'm going to hear one day. Mistake gone nagskaman genin hogab matsian. 7 years ago, giwaniha niwi jogan cancer. Nagati 4 months later, noses giwaniha 19 years old they got up nangob matswin. Meanwhile, 2 years later, noses umagi nasaganwe 17 years old. Meanwhile, nagat 2 years later, Ntanis giwaniha. Heart attack at 40 years old. My youngest daughter. Egamina last year. Dana Kopitigan, my great granddaughter, who was 13 years old. Giwaniha. Suicide. So but you still see me standing here. And by the grace of God, that's why you see me standing here. He's helped me when I fall. That's why praying is important. I pray every night for anybody that I have run into. Even the leaders, people that work for government, everybody. And sometimes I do have little visions when something comes to me, something nice. That's what I wanted to share with you today. Gamichigedas. Kingagisho at Sangishamando. Yunanakumeko. Ohoe ka gisimenu gistuan kohoe ohoe mawachitun. Ohoe ka gisikak. E gisuene misyang kakinajamenu avandamang hoga gisikak. Kega gisimenu asamisyang mijam kene begabachtuang. Kega gisimenu ijiutyang kagisimenu ayamihtyang. Ohoge ninon gatasyang humagase kasi mawachitnanang. Okoe no kitas ke emamet nen magito. Ni chapmat sinan. Okoe no kamate animat ne ko umamet nen chikanoa. Chike mae kikendamak. Enen tago hawiya pangabanab magana. Kintas kita penemanondago. Entas sugishika. Juichisyang. Epimuinisyang. Ekete buenimekon. Isese pagusen manga kinata suegane saghamang juishoin mishan juikanoin mishan ko getbekag. Omino juimeno ab mitnag shebag. Isese pagusen me gino to Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you very much. I just want to inform the group, tomorrow morning when you come in, there will be a survey form, okay? We would like you to pick one up, and at the end of the day, we're going to have a draw based on who does the surveys there. And how many prizes do we have? 1 or 2? So who gave me this? Anna Marie? How many prizes? 5? Oh, 5 prizes, okay? So you have to fill the survey. The forms will be sitting there. I'll remind you first thing in the morning. With that, we stand adjourned till tomorrow morning. Have a nice evening.